Hey folks, so my partner had to leave early and I don't want to leave money sitting on the table, so I'm not going to clock out yet, but there's nothing else for me to do, so I might as well go live. Good evening there, another Sim City medic. Today was a pretty good day. I had a rare occasion to be on a double medic truck, and that's always fun. Also had one of our hospital residents riding with us, the first year residents there for a month straight, do nothing but ride on our ambulances. And man, I love that. That is always so much fun. I love digging into a physician and really just getting into pathophysiology. Yeah, it's so much fun, isn't it? Yeah, they're great. Especially with one that's like really invested in the learning process as well. I actually like hitting the Google rabbit hole with a physician when we both get stumped by something. And like 9 times out of 10, the physician's going to be fantastic. I've had a couple of times where either the physician wasn't invested in it at all, and the one time where it was the worst, I mean, the guy had been an EMT for like 10 years, and there was just nothing for him to gain or learn being on the truck, at least from his perspective, and he was just checked out. And then there was another physician who was taking control of every call, and I had to have a conversation with her and let her know that she was there to observe me. I was not there to observe her, and she backed down after that. But yeah. Here from ID, is that Idaho? Love when a doc rides along, on scene med control. There's nothing that they can't like give us permission to do anything. The only instance where there's some wiggle room there is if I've been told that if there's a patient that really needs like involuntary committal, that at that point maybe that doc can step in, because in Georgia that can't happen. Like there's no Baker Act like there is in Florida. The only time somebody can have an involuntary committal is if a mental health professional, including a physician, actually literally physically gets eyes on them. So that's the only time. Evening, sir. How you feeling? I am feeling great. Thank you for asking. And hello to Steve Cole watching in Idaho. Idaho is potatoes, right? Iowa is corn and Idaho is potatoes, right? It's always when you see their patients for emergency medicine, I've had nothing but pleasant rides. Yeah, so much fun. Yeah, the only remnant of COVID that I have right now is just a little post-nasal drip. So if you hear a little bit of a, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be gross. Hello from Columbus, Georgia. Well, hello back to you. Every once in a while, we have to take a patient to Columbus. There's some sort of LTAC there that every once in a while we take a patient to when the LTACs in our region are full. Can we stop by Taco Bell on the way to the ER, or do ambulances fit in the drive-thru? I feel like maybe you've been here before and asked that before. Hi, Daddy Metro. Our Sprinter can almost fit through the drive-thru. Almost. Who's watching from work tonight, and who's just hanging out on TikTok watching tonight? Our ambulances fit in the drive-thru at In-N-Out Burger. Man, if there was any restaurant or fast food restaurant that I would want to fit through the drive-thru, it would be In-N-Out. Let me stop compressions for a second. Get that burger animal style. Home finishing my 5-page paper for paramedic school. What are you writing that paper on? I'm avoiding the Tampa Bay game. Oh my God. The notion of the NFL East or the NFL South, of any of those teams advancing, just sickens me. Working in Kalkaska, Michigan. Is that in the glove or in the UP? The UP, eh? Of course, future of EMS in 15 years is the topic. It's going to look a lot different than it does now. I would imagine you're going to see much higher pay for everyone all around, a lot more degree requirements. You're going to see more strategic deployment of paramedics instead of a paramedic in every truck. You're probably going to see a lot more Jenna Roxbury's where you have RNs on a truck, possibly even the onset of the paramedic practitioner who actually is operating under their own license. What's up, man? KW Para, good to see you, man. What about IVs and BLS scope? Maybe. I do think that I'm not sure about that, because we're going to have to make the idea of an EMT a lot more attractive than it is now. And if we can get that many people invested in it, then I think they'll raise the barrier for entry to EMT so that there's things like IVs in there. Do you ever take patients to Roosevelt LTAC in Warm Springs? I don't even know where that is. Be more focused on community medicine and tiered responses. Yes, definitely. Average student loans amassed during education to become an EMT. I'm not sure. I went to a community college in North Carolina. And the way that North Carolina is, if you're attached to a service and the service pays for your EMT and paramedic school. So I've never had to pay out of pocket. But I know here in Georgia, I mean, you spend thousands of dollars so you can make $12 an hour. So, which, that's ridiculous. How about nurses that learn IVs in school? Aren't they de-emphasizing teaching IV access to nurses in school and more emphasizing that in the once they get on the job? That's what I understood, kind of the way nurses were going to, because a lot of nurses are not in an environment where they're acquiring IV access, except in like hospital environments and some, like urgent cares and things like that. So I thought they were de-emphasizing that in nursing school. If they pay me what I make as an RN, what's up, Logan? If they pay me to make as an RN to work on a truck, definitely doing that. Hell yes. Check the video I tagged you in. Please tell me that it is not the supposed trooper overdose that happened 3 days ago, where they gave him Narcan because he had the stinky leg. Warm Springs is where FDR spent time. And oh, yeah, that's right, in his later years. Great day trip with lots of history. I actually I need to get that on a list to take my girlfriend there. I have a list of like places I want to take her to see. Yeah, man, I'm glad you reminded me of that. I will forget that immediately, but hopefully I actually won't. Folks, say hi to the angry paramedic, Charlie Swearingen. He's live right now. Or he's amongst us right now. For paramedics, you are starting to see more and more agencies give tuition repayment as a recruiting tool. I mean, they are going to spend money on everything but salaries, aren't they? What's your average transport time? I work inner city with 10 to 15 minutes. That's about what it is for us, 15 to 20 minutes. I mean, and that's on the high side. I mean, probably around 10 minutes is the average. I mean, in the Atlanta area, in the greater Atlanta area, we have like 15 hospitals. So we're never far away from a hospital. It all depends on funding and personnel. Critical care will be essential as hospitals consolidate. Yes. In other countries, critical care is just paramedicine. We're the only country that makes that this thing that we have to get extra education for. I've been to Boone, North Carolina, fun town compared to back home. I lived in North Carolina, but eastern North Carolina, for 20 years. And never been to Boone, always wanted to. I'm a lot closer to Boone than in Atlanta, though, than I was in Wilmington. Are you a triage? What does that mean? Oh, a triage nurse. After 25 years as a medic, I'm going to nursing school. Well, I don't blame you. I mean, there's nowhere to go but sideways in paramedicine, so... Hope Grant paid for about $2,000 for my EMTI in 2007. I paid about $6,000 for paramedic school. I hope that was a degree. The lack of personnel right now is leading to more in-house EMT classes to stabilize services, which is sad because I'm not knocking the capability of the educators there or the quality of the programs, but in-house EMT schools are creating in-house EMTs. And that just degrades the quality of their education over time. Hello. Well, hello back to you. Yeah, Charlie, you can join. Let me invite you. I can hear you. I cannot see you yet.
Hey, looking to fix that. Hold
on. I prefer not to say who I work for live. Not for any other reason that there's just no reason to bring them into it. They're very, very good to me, and they're very, very supportive of this right here. And, I have labored to keep them separate from all this, so I'm not going to name them live. But, I've confirmed to people when they've named it. But
is there a lamp? Do you need a lamp? Is there? Can that one turn on? Yeah. Okay.
So, guys, if you're not aware, this is Charlie Swearingen, known as the Angry Paramedic on TikTok, educator extraordinaire, makes great, great content as well. Does a lot of critical care stuff, does critical care education, author of many books, including Hemo Hero, which is the one book of his that I bought. So.
Oh, well, hey, we're about to redo that one. So I got you and anybody else listening. I will buy you the updated copy because we're going back and just revamping all of these originals. The original Vent Hero, I went back and redid, and it was way better. It's done way better, and we're starting to right now go through, and not only me, but like every one of these other books, I'm partnering with somebody. So I have a neonate nurse that's we're going to do a Neo Hero. We're doing a guy that is an expert in hemodynamics that's redoing Hemo Hero. So anyway, that's very kind words. Thanks, Jimmy.
How would you like to do a book called Resuscitation Hero?
Recess Hero.
Yeah.
Are you interested?
I'm definitely interested in that, like that kind of like on out of hospital cardiac arrest.
Yes. And bridge not only this doesn't have to be critical care because I saw somebody and I forget who did this. I saw this earlier. Somebody wrote, critical care is something to the effect of critical care is what we do. And I can't agree more. Like I go to critical care classes and I'm like, who's the paramedics in the room? And they raise their hands. And of course, by that point, I've already had nurses raise their hands and I gave them a good, kudos. But I'm like, if you're a paramedic, then you've already had a lot of critical care. We get a survey of critical care, and it depends on how you use it and what you use, depending on what state and what your medical director says. But in the end, for the most part, that's kind of what we do. We do a good survey of that, no matter if you're talking about just doing a simple intubation, a simple CPR, a simple, something that gets a little bit more less than simple, but it's all the same thing. We're all doing critical care, just a version of it. And so, yeah, if you're interested, I'm looking for a guy to help me do a Recess Hero.
Yeah, I would definitely be interested in that. In fact, starting to work on a talk right now because I'm going to be speaking at my first conference in April, and it's going to be called Relearning Resuscitation, where we just I examine every aspect of it, go over the evidence, and try to build from scratch, a perfect resuscitation.
Outstanding. Are you a CCTMC?
Yes.
Okay, so I just moved from Denver, and it really bothers my wife and I, who just helped me set up the little system here. We're visiting in-laws in Oklahoma City right now, and but anyway, we just moved from Denver, and we really hate that CCTMC is coming to Denver after we left. But I love that. I'm going to be there. I'm going to come listen to you.
Awesome. Oh wait, what did you ask me? If about CCT?
You're going to be at CCTMC in Denver?
Oh no, I thought you were asking me like if I was a critical care medic. I probably won't be there because I think that's running right up against Heavy Lies the Helmets Crash and Learn.
Oh, is that where you're going to be? That was the ultimate question. Where are you going to
Yeah.
be teaching?
For Crash and Learn?
Sorry, where are you going to be doing your
Oh,
resuscitation?
I'm sorry, at the Metro Atlanta EMS conference.
Oh, well, that I can drive over. I'm only 6 hours away from that. Okay,
Yeah,
I might
that'd be
do that.
awesome.
All right,
Somebody
cool.
suggested that Tom Bouthole would be good for that book. Tom Bouthole is the guy that activated me as far as resuscitation goes.
Okay,
He held a Hilton Head, South Carolina Resuscitation Academy in cooperation with Seattle's Resuscitation Academy. And then I went on to help actually host a Resuscitation Academy in Atlanta. And I have been immersed in resuscitation science ever since then. So, yeah, Tom is definitely the man.
that's awesome. That's great. That's been one of the coolest things over the last 10 years for me is that I started in Mississippi and then I moved off to pursue like another track that doesn't matter for this conversation. But what that did was it got me involved in some national level paramedic education with like some of the air medical companies that I work for. And I've seen all these great people all over the country. But the cool thing is like every conference you go to, every time you turn over another rock in our field, whether it's on social media or, at a conference or somewhere, like the people that are out there are just amazing. And all I want is like everybody to know these people. You know what I mean? Like I've talked about you, and I've talked about Greg Shadetree, and I've talked about a handful of these guys like recently to like people that I know, and I'm like, oh really? I'm like, yeah, dude, I know you don't do TikTok, but you got to jump on and look at this guy, look at these guys, and that's just the cool thing of interconnecting folks. There's so much education and learning out there that like one educator might resonate more with another, and it doesn't matter that you like this one or that one, but like did you get something out of it? And that's like the most important thing that I think I can ever tell people. So that's
Yeah,
really cool.
absolutely. There's been
I'm gonna
some
look
great
that guy up.
networking. There's been some great networking happening on TikTok for me. It's been awesome, And somebody just mentioned about Tom Bouthole, how he retired and works for Laerdal now for RQI. He works with a good friend of mine by the name of Mike Herbert, who everybody knows as Big German Mike, and just a fantastic guy that everyone in EMS should know. And hello to Mike Verkest as well. He's watching right now. He's like my most loyal fan.
He's a good dude. He's put up with Eric way too long, and
Right, right. But he's doing good work on the EMS show on his podcast.
yeah, I've watched his stuff a couple times. It's pretty impressive, and I just don't want to give him too much, compliments, but definitely solid. Definitely solid.
So my friend Logan here, he said that MAEMSC is cool, which is the Metro Atlanta EMS conference, but he's asking, when is the Paramedic Talk conference?
Oh wow.
And I was thinking about that the other day. I think that Logan suggested that, or somebody suggested that there should be a Paramedic Talk conference, and I agree, but I don't know what that looks like. So.
Well, we would have to get a couple people together that like actually can really help like move it in the right direction, the right part. So we have to have somebody that's like a business person to get all of the logistics. We have to have like the scheduling person to make sure that everybody's right. It takes a lot to do that, and as much as V's on here, but like as much as I jar at Eric Bauer, like he put together a really good conference from scratch, and granted he had good resources from what he's earned, but it's hard to do that, and to like just materialize one. It's like, oh crap. So that said, I mean, I think it can be done. We just need to figure out like we got to get a couple leaders and launch it, and maybe we get, I don't know, Eric drunk one night and start picking his brain. V, what do you think?
Sure. I think that, we Mike Burkess is saying we did fast with
Five
5 people.
people, dude. Five
I
people.
think that with a paramedic talk, so here, I think different people are watching TikTok.
You said TikTok.
And I know. Now I have to drink out of your leg. Um,
Fair.
but the people that I'm tending to reach are probably not a lot of people that are going to conferences, and that was, the way I tailor my content is by design. I'm trying to get evidence-based medicine to people who are in EMS and just happen to be scrolling TikTok and can catch something very digestible. And I'm not sure that paramedic talk is going to get them to spend however much money that costs to go to those conferences. I think that riding another conference would be a lot better, where you emphasize the TikTok creators at that conference.
Ooh, that's good. Now, so every one of these has like a pre-conference, and then of course they have the parties in the evening. But like, what maybe we could do is like, all right, here's a pitch. What if, and we have 25 people on right now. So of the majority of those, in between, like if we went to a major conference and we went to a brewery and we said like, all right, we're gonna have for 2 hours, we're gonna bring like these people here. We're gonna make sure that all these people are gonna, buy beer, but we want to like we can get sponsored. I guarantee you, we get sponsored like these people here. We're gonna make sure that all these people are gonna, buy beer, but we want to like we can get sponsored. I guarantee you, we got sponsors, and we had like everybody that showed up gets 2 free beers. They're going to drink more than that, especially if it's right nearby where one of these big parties are going to be, or even in the same building, because the parties they get bought out from like 6, 7, 8 at night. But if we were there from like 4:30 or 5 to 7, people go grab some food and they show up. I guarantee you we could do that. That would be easy. And I bet all these
Yeah.
people here, I could see some of them. It'd be
Yeah, actually, a lot of the people are here are people who I think would go to a conference like that, or at least would be interested in a paramedic talk or EMS talk arm of a conference.
yeah. I don't know who IR Rogers 2806, but yeah, it's only a 6 hour drive, so I'll
Yeah.
figure it out. I'll figure it out. I have buddies that live in Atlanta. I really what's the date there, Jimmy? Give me the.
I don't have it in front of me. I was on the conference, I mean, the committee for that conference for a while. I'm not now, but one of the guys on the conference, I don't know if you know Nick Adams, he's pretty well known. He's actually the co host of the Standard of Care podcast, but he asked me to participate in the conference, and I know that I'm free. I just don't know the actual dates. But not only will I get the dates to you, but I'll actually see. If they're still looking for speakers, because it'd be great to have you speak there.
Oh, that'd be easy. I'd be able to get off work. So
Yeah,
like, yeah, that'd be easy. So yeah, awesome. Well, I'm excited to come see you. So let me know about that.
absolutely. Yeah,
Now,
absolutely.
I sent all this whole succinylcholine thing out recently. I don't know what you were talking about earlier. Were you guys kind of finished with that topic, or
Yeah, I mean, I was just kind of answering questions.
gotcha? And this is a. I'm starting to dip a little bit more into general, yeah, I don't know, care versus like the critical care advanced. Like I just want to talk medicine. Like I could care less what we call it, right? But like
Yeah.
the one thing that I had, and I'm about to release this story where I killed a kid, and it was terrifying. But like in the end, it was I didn't do the right things to figure out if the patient had history of neuromuscular problem, and I gave succinylcholine. And so, have you read or saw the? I know I saw that you liked it, but like, have you dug into any of that before I start rambling?
I mean, I haven't done any extra reading, but what you say from a pathophysiological standpoint tracks.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't know it then, other than like we shouldn't give it to kids. This kid was. You walk into this room. We landed. It's a tiny hospital in Mississippi. There's like 4 or 5, 6 people in the room, excited to have us show up and take the kid out of the room. But the kid looks so tired. like you pick its arm up and it would just drop to the ground. Like it's not even trying anymore. This is like, when you go to PAL's class and they say like, oh, they can maintain, and they fall off. He's about to fall off. And we gave this kid this, we got him ready. Like, we got to get him intubated because he's sick with other stuff. And we're asking like, what's going on with this kid? Like, well, we don't have the history. Like, who is the nurse? And I'm like, well, they're shift changing. I'm like, can we get the chart? And it was like, it got to the point where the kid started to desaturate. And like, all right, well, Bill, I told my partner, like, dude, we got to tube this kid. And so like, all right, well, at that point, and we had gone back later, a week later or so, and went back and looked. At this point, I had intubated myself personally about 200 kids, and like 190 something was succinylcholine. Well, it don't matter until the one time that it means something. And so we gave this kid sucks, and his mouth went to like a Venus flytrap, like almost immediately. And I looked down, and I was like, huh, okay. Hey, I think we got master muscle spasm. I said it all calmly. I was like, can we get the rock? And we need to start looking for hyperkalemia and some ice packs. And the kid, 10,000 foot view, the kid went to malignant hyperthermia and hyperkalemia. We had to treat both, manage both. 45 minutes late, and we shocked him 14 times. And there's a whole lot of detail that goes into it, but we got the kid back. I still stalk this kid on Facebook at least once a year on the day that it happened. He's still running around. He's playing baseball now, and I'll never say his name or any other than like he's a Mississippi individual. But it was one of those things that we worked the problem, and the more that I talk to anesthesia, they're like, yeah, I mean, like we just steer clear of kids, but for the most part, steer clear of kids and kids and people with family history of it. But if it happens, you just work the problem, and like usually you get them back within 15 minutes. I was, well, it took me 45. He goes, "We're not anesthesiologist." I was like, "Well, that's fair." Did you fix him? And I was like, I think so. We'll see. I'll watch him on Facebook, but the kid is literally now like 11 or 12 years old, run around, normal kid. But I thought that was my last call. The moment that happened, I was like, oh, well, this is my last call. So what do? Well, you still work the problem. That's
Absolutely.
my next little lesson is no matter what happens, you work the problem.
Absolutely. Hey, the dates for the conference are April 27th through 29th.
And drive in the night before, and then I work 2 days after that. So I'll try to be there for the 27th at least to come see you. Now what day you're talking?
I don't. I haven't even confirmed it yet, but I think I'm going to. I think I'm going to force myself to take that step.
Yeah, it's good, Jimmy. And honestly, like it make like and you know this better than anybody else. Like you get to the point where you're an educator, and then all you want to do, like if you're going to tell somebody something, you want to make sure you're right. So then you follow the science, and you follow the literature, and you follow all the right stuff. And the next thing is like now you're at conference. Well, crap, now I really have to be right. It's one of the best things I ever did was to speak in front of people because it just makes you forced to be right.
Yeah, that's funny because I've learned that on TikTok. I'll get ready to make a video and I want to post something and I will talk about something. And then I'm suddenly like, you know what? I haven't gone back and read the source for that in a while. Let me go back and just double check to make sure that I am backed by evidence. And on more than one occasion, something has changed. I'm like, damn, I'm glad I didn't just start running my mouth without going back to that source.
Yeah. Yeah. Undoubtedly. So, can you tell us so other than resuscitation in general, like, can you tell us the topic?
Can I tell you the topic?
Yeah. Do you know the topic you're going to speak on?
Well, it's going to be called relearning resuscitation.
Relearning. You said that earlier. Okay. I'm sorry. Yeah. Relearning.
So we're gonna act like no one knows anything about resuscitation, and so we'll get into, well, what's the pathology behind most cardiac arrests? 80% of them are going to be some sort of cardiac origin, and then you have your outliers outside of that. Mm-hmm. And then we're going to talk about what's happening in that time between when someone arrests And when we get there, highlighting the importance of obviously bystanders knowing CPR and having AEDs available and that sort of thing, how time is a factor, and then getting into our own practices, such as how effective are compressions. you know, should we be doing apneic oxygenation, or should we be doing 30 to 2 before we have an advanced airway in? Should we be intubating or put in an SGA? Should we be administering fluid? Should we be giving a milligram of epinephrine every 5 minutes plus amiodarone? All the things that we do in cardiac arrest, we're just going to teach it to ourselves again as if we didn't know it, and take on some of the evidence against a lot of these practices, such as, cyclical milligrams of epinephrine.
Yeah, they're good. Perfect. What is something that you've seen recently that you just want to, if you're talking about resuscitation, what is one thing that you could say, guys, we got to quit doing this, we need to do that?
Well, we need to quit looking at the Lucas as a panacea for cardiac arrest or any mechanical CPR. People think that they can just set that and forget that, and you actually have to babysit the Lucas. It wanders, and also we need to stop sitting patients up to place the Lucas or rolling patients to set the Lucas. Because, if a person's natural physiological processes are not working, then if you roll a patient or sit them up, then you're just displacing blood volume away from the heart and the brain. So anything that involves moving a patient, including transport, should be avoided at almost all costs.
Okay. That's interesting. We don't, in Mississippi, where I work now, and that's where I actually started 12 years, or oh my gosh, 17 years ago, flying. We don't fly. Right now we don't fly any. Nobody around us ever uses a manual device, and I know that I've worked with a bunch of folks in Florida that do. I've worked with like in the Florida Panhandle of Georgia. I've worked with some folks that fly some of that stuff. So I'm totally ignorant when if I walked up and I'm like, all right, so that's one of those devices. All right, I need somebody to give me an in-service really quickly. So if I walked into the room and you're about to hand me off this patient, give me the 10,000-foot view real quick.
Give you the 10,000 view on like what we've done.
No, on like the device. Like, so you're gonna give me a device where they're physically, the Lucas is active, and let's say this is one of those cases. So the cool thing is, and I've heard all the conjecture arguments, but some of the guys in Florida have flown folks in cardiac arrest all the way to a cath lab, under certain circumstances, and then they got the patient, and the patient walked out of the hospital, like a week later. I know that's rare, but it's still a thing. And so if I show up and I'm like, I don't know what that device is, give me the 10,000 view because I'm going to have it with me for the next hour.
Okay, so with the Lucas, essentially the Lucas is a tool that is doing something for you that you don't want to do and doing it tirelessly. But if you're not trained on the Lucas like you would be trained on anything else, then it's probably going to cause more harm than good. The Lucas can disrupt your compression fraction, because obviously if you stop compressions for more than 3 seconds, all your intrathoracic pressures go to 0. And so if you don't have a way to get that Lucas placed without disrupting compressions for more than 3 seconds, then you might as well just walk in and sit on the patient's chest instead of placing the Lucas. And so the best way to place the Lucas is to take the back plate and slide it under the small of the back during compressions. That doesn't interfere with the compressor when you do that. Okay. You set the pedestal on there, you click it in place, and then you click one side of the neck strap, and then you get ready for your rhythm check. And at your rhythm check, you'll have a person on either side of that patient, one who is the compressor and the other person who is setting the Lucas. And during the rhythm check, you glance at the rhythm and you grab the Lucas and you grab the shoulder and you slide and you push play. And you can do that in 3 seconds or less.
Okay. All right. Now that's very helpful. I've never used one before, other than, I physically have never used one, and I hear about them all the time. I've trained people that use them. I've trained people to use them to some degree, and not in that level. Like, so that was like The thing I didn't know how to do is how to actually, if I'm going to go pick them up from you, what do I do? How do I get them set up, and then what do I do from here on? What is the? And is there a here's the follow up question: is there a complication that could happen with the Lucas specific? Not like,
Yes.
okay, what is it?
So the biggest thing about the Lucas is that it wanders because a patient's anatomy is not level like you would see in some sort of drawing, from the belly up to the chest. It's not
Right,
level. And so
right.
they have slopes to their anatomy that causes the Lucas to want to wander down to the abdomen. And so if you don't have the neck strap applied properly to
Ah,
where there's tension on there, it's going to wander and it actually causes damage to organs, some pretty significant organ damage from wandering, which, not only does it cause that organ damage, but because it's wandered off the ventricle, it's not performing, it's not doing any good.
got it.
That's the biggest drawback with the Lucas there is it wandering down. It can also, depending on the patient's anatomy, the strap can also cause the Lucas to start pivoting, which is not good as well because then compressions will happen towards the diaphragm. And so you should also always carry a second strap, like a backboard strap with the Lucas, so you can correct for pivoting.
Huh, okay.
The
That
proper way to use the auto pulse is to throw it in the trash.
that sounds like Wendy's talking about Popeyes or McDonald's.
Yeah, I mean the auto pulse uses that external band, and it is not easy to set up. It's incredibly heavy. The band gets stuck all the time. The battery life is shit, and so it's just garbage. It's just absolute garbage.
You love it.
The auto pulse, no.
That was sarcasm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody.
I like the Lucas as a tool if everyone is trained on it, but to me, if we can get high performance CPR going, pit crew CPR, where everyone knows their role and everyone's invested in it, everyone's open to receiving some correction on their compressions if they start leaning, that sort of thing, then I would rather do that. But, if I don't have a buy-in from everyone in the room, then the Lucas is going on.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's solid. Yep. All right.
This would be a good one for you to answer. Someone was asking about running a ventilator during CPR, which is more and more starting to be something that people do. You just have to manage your pressures, to have much lower pressures and to have a way to disable some pressure alarms.
Yeah, I don't know that it's really not effective. I mean, honestly, like it's really hard to because I mean, even if you take even if you can minimize or somewhat standardize the compression, like with a Lucas device, if we use the right one, um, to steal your words, if it in if we're in CPR, it's like everything else. Like everything else is out the window. The benefit of a ventilator is that when we're worried and scared as clinicians and we overbag or bag too fast, bag too much pressure and all that, like that's where over time the ventilator is incredibly safe. But it's also like if we're trying to put that on there and the vent's just trying to just barely give enough air in CPR, like sometimes that's not enough. So we need to be breathing at the right depth, and that's where like my favorite people in the world to help me in a cardiac arrest is the EMT basic because they're so focused on like I can do these respirations, I know how deep to do them, I know fast to do them. They're like not that far removed from their training typically, in general, and even if they're a 30-year veteran, like that's what they do. And I need you and my partners that I used to work with, I would say, look, I need you to nail this and make sure that I don't mess this up. Like your job is to help make sure that I don't like run amok. And so, if it comes to vent during the code, let's back up a second and let's talk about like en route to the hospital, right? So, first off, I mean, is that the right thing to do? Should we be moving the patient during cardiac arrest? And I think that the Hamlin thing, Jimmy, you talked about it a lot, and this is one of the things that I reached out to you personally. I was like, I'm really glad you've been preaching this because something's going. In my mind, I was like, something's going to happen at some point. I'm really glad you said this. And then a couple weeks later, this Hamlin thing happened, and then that dude is up and around right now. and it was, whether it was commotio cordis or whatever conjecture, condition that was, if he's got like some weird thing, or if it was just commotio or whatever, like he's alive, and those guys did a hell of a job of doing stopping, getting back into it, getting him back up, moving. I don't know that the vent really plays a role. It's just
Yeah.
tough because it is tough. If you and I are working together and we get a cardiac arrest and somebody brings up, like, if our student or you, or even if I say, hey, let's put the vent on, I'm like, not the time. Let's do some basic BLS. Let's get that knocked out. And if it's the point where, like, they keep going in and out of cardiac arrest and we keep getting them back out of it, and like it's some time that actually, okay, maybe we do move with them to get them to whatever the definitive care that they need, I'm still probably going to be put somebody on top of that head, or at the front of at the head of the bed, with a back valve mask and a PEEP valve, and we're going to we're going to be doing the ventilator with the back valve mask unless we get some type of return. It's really tough to put somebody on a vent and just leave it, forget it, because the vent's a dynamic thing. Sorry, that was long.
Yeah, I mean, I think, BLS is usually king in a resuscitation strategy. I mean, you look at multiple studies and survival rates are higher with BLS only crews. And so I think getting focused on things like the vent is just the wrong direction. I do want to mention that somebody suggested vent settings of your pod of 60, trigger to nil, respiratory rate to 8. The one thing I take issue with here is tidal volume based on ideal body weight. In a cardiac arrest, you shouldn't be exceeding 300 to 350 milliliters in order not to create too much intrathoracic pressure. But I don't like the idea of using a vent on a cardiac arrest. I think from a cognitive standpoint, it's demanding more of you than simply your little princess puffs with a pediatric VDM.
Yeah, and I think that maybe that does, maybe. I haven't ever done the Princess Puffs, and I know that there's a lot of studies out there with it, but I haven't, I honestly haven't dug into those studies. So that said, I'll steer clear of that argument, but I will go tonight, or tomorrow, and look that up, because I know that people do that. I'm like, all right, I get where you're going, but in the end, like, are you giving enough volume? And like in the end, the volume, like the 100% oxygenated air goes in. They're usually getting oxygenated. Your people that show up, no matter what comorbidities, and you pull the first ABG at the ER, I mean, their O2, their PO2 is like 400 something, right? So they're getting oxygen. The problem is, are we getting enough volume to help clear out and do what we can respiratory wise to clear out the acid? We're not going to fix their ABG, but we still need to be moving enough air to help clear as much acid as we can in a safe kind of capacity. But when you get down to, what I did like here in a second ago was somebody said sensitivity nil. I'm all about that. That is a genius. Whoever said that is on an upper echelon of very good stuff. I mean, like, yeah, the sensitivities be off there. Their volume, like, I could care less what their pressure is. I need to control it if we're going to try to do this. I would rather, like you said, like lower volumes, higher rates, something that people think is dangerous. Like, this is my favorite thing to talk about with the vent. If what is too high? Like, if I walk up and we got a trauma patient, I'm like, hey, listen, I need you to put this patient at like 28 breaths per minute. And usually when I do my classes, somebody makes me look like, what? I'm like, yeah, that's the one. That, what bothered you about that? Well, that's just too high. It's like, well, why? Why is 28 rate too high? And usually people can't enunciate, or rather, explain why. And in the end, if the faster we breathe, the less we're allowed to exhale. So at some point, we're going to reach an inflection where our rate is faster than the air that we can push out, and at that point, that's breath stacking. So the danger of breathing too fast is breath stacking. Okay, fine, but there's a button for that. As long as you're not auto peeping, then you're not breath stacking. So most ventilators have that on there. So if you put them on something, at whatever rate, I think in the case that, if to go back to that original question, if we put them at 250, 300, 350, and a rate of like 28 or 30, yeah, that's what I would do. And a sensitivity of nil, I wouldn't care what the patient's doing, i.e., what our compressions are doing. I would want the patient to get 30 times a minute, a small amount of air. 250 times
In
three.
cardiac arrest?
Um, Well, I would want the minute volume to match. All I'm saying is like that's just a random number. Like if we had, because in the end, like if they're in cardiac arrest, I don't want 12,500. I would want more because they're in arrest because of some type of acidosis. So before I get too deep down that, am I answering the right question, or do you want to ask a follow up question to see what I meant?
Um, I think we may have we may be diverging a little bit. In a cardiac arrest, an out of hospital cardiac arrest, we wouldn't want to ventilate somebody more than 8 a minute at about 300 and 350. I do like the trigger being nil, but
I guess
we
where I was going is let me back up. Let's do peri arrest. If somebody's peri arrest, I want a lot of air movement because what's got them there is some form of acidosis. So if I'm going to put, and again, just I've never put anybody on the vent in cardiac arrest. I've always bagged them, but in the end, if they're in arrest, most likely to some form of acidosis, like some whether it's direct hypoxia, like the blood's not being able to pushed out to all the tissues and not deliver oxygen. There's not enough red blood cells or whatever. So I hear what you're saying with the bagging, but if I was marrying that ultimately to if we're going to put them on a vent, and that's what I think about, and so I was kind of translating that out. So I
gotcha.
don't know that there's data on that, but like the interesting thing that I'm thinking of now after you brought that up is at what point do we if it's peri arrest and I'm trying to move a lot of air because they're, I mean, you have the DK patient that's diabetic ketoacidosis and their Kussmaul's recipe. The only reason we do that is to get rid of acid, and so if that's what we should try to. They're creating a metabolic alkalosis to combat that metabolic acidosis. And so, at what point do we transition from wherever they are, they got them in a cardiac arrest or peri arrest, into the smaller volumes in cardiac arrest? So here's my pitch. I think that we probably still to be moving a little bit more air in cardiac arrest. I have no more basis other than my own meandering experience. I have no data to support that, but that's where I think that I probably want to start having some conversations.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm interested in looking more into the ventilator and cardiac arrest. My instinct is let's not overcomplicate this. For just your conventional out of hospital cardiac arrest, not in like a critical care situation where you're anticipating that's where it's going. Because that sort of critical care arrest or an in hospital arrest are managed completely different. And they do often in those arrests sometimes increase their minute volume greatly. But that's not the approach you would take in an out of hospital cardiac arrest. Somebody asked me about the Eligard, and I just wanted to answer that real quick. I don't know if they're still paying attention. The Eligard is the system that it's a machine that you place the patient's head on in cardiac arrest, and there's a Lucas built into it. And over a period of 2 minutes, there's a gradual elevation and then a lowering of that patient's head. And the idea is that it's supposed to manage a patient's intracerebral pressures much better, because when you slam that epi in there, it subjects them to very high intracerebral pressures and cerebral hypertension. And then when that epi metabolizes, it subjects them to significant cerebral hypotension. And by elevating and lowering their head at strategic times, it's supposed to manage that better. And they also use a rescue pod to ensure that they aren't providing too much intrathoracic pressure and ventilating when they're not supposed to. There was a paper that was published not too long ago that claimed, and Peter Antevi was one of the authors of this paper, that claimed that survival rates were higher with the Eligard. But they dug in there, somebody else dug in there and looked at the data and demonstrated that they were actually data dredging and kind of looking for data that they liked and leaving some other data out, and that survival rates were not actually higher with the Eligard. So far, it's a zero-sum game with the Eligard.
Yeah. I'm agreeing with Steve, who said like he wants hypotension, everything else to be fixed before focusing on vent. And I'm typing and like I didn't mention it, but agree that has to be fixed. That has to be targeted first and without question. So anytime I talk about and that's my big thing, and that's what I've studied more and more. And I'm not a physician, I'm not an RT, but I've worked with some of the world's most the US's most prominent RTs and physicians, ICU docs in East Coast, West Coast, middle of the country, Southeast, where I'm from. And we all agree on a lot of the same things. And the whole thing is I'm trying to pull together what we know about minute volume and how important it is. A lot of the studies in sepsis, if you think about it, or if you read them, they talk about like in 30 minutes, what you do can make them start to get better or start to get worse. And without question, hypotension, fixing the reason of hypotension, whether it's blood or fluid or pressure or if it's something else like some specific medication that they need to. Everything we do in emergency medicine and critical care medicine basically is trying to facilitate oxygen to get from out here into our mouth, past our airways, down to our velar capillary membranes, across that red blood cell, pushed around to a tissue where it can metabolize with sugar. Because if we don't do that, then acid happens, right? And so our
Right.
whole goal is to get oxygen, sugar into the right spot, and that's why we eat 3 or 4 times a day. That's why we breathe every other few moments, is to facilitate that thing happening, metabolism. If not, then we have anaerobic metabolism. Every medicine, every therapy we've ever done is to fix that. So I totally agree with you, Steve, that I mean, we need to fix hypotension without question, hypoxia without question. My assumption was, we're already working on cardiac arrest and peri-arrest, and hopefully we've already been attenuating that. If I'm thinking of minute volume, then I've already attacked that stuff. So it all comes together. There was a Dan Davis is one of my mentor from back in the day. I haven't spoken with him in years, but very, very smart guy that always talked about like the waitress that shows up. She's got three things on her tray, like a really heavy milkshake and a burger, and then like a big thing of fries. If you take one off, you have to balance it, and that's exactly what we come down to with a lot of hemodynamics, oxygen, and ventilation, and that was his whole thing was like you have all these things that deal with hemodynamics, all these things that deal with oxygenation, all these with ventilation, and they all intermix. And so I think too often, and my whole pitch again as a non-medic or as a non-physician, non-RT, I've worked with a lot of these guys, and the minute ventilation is something that's missing that we don't recognize as a group as much yet. And there's a bunch of people that are starting to like do it, but it's getting that all together and not just saying it. We have to do research, and then honestly, like my PhD is going to be on minute volume as it relates to hemodynamics, and that's the thing I'm doing now that I'm back in Mississippi and I'm back at the University of Mississippi. That's going to be my direction.
Somebody had asked, why would calcium be administered to a non-renal patient during arrest, as he saw a doc do it? The answer is that it should not be administered to a non-renal patient in cardiac arrest. And if that doctor did that, it was probably a kitchen sink type thing, or he may have been overthinking it. But study after study has demonstrated that mortality is lower with administration of calcium in cardiac arrest, even when you're giving it to correct hyperkalemia. So I'm not sure why that doctor would do that. That's the call that he's allowed to make. But, I've asked doctors in the ED, why did you give calcium? The data we have is fairly clear. I mean, the COCA trial that was performed in Europe had to be stopped early because the results were disastrous with empiric administration of calcium. So sometimes they're just not up on the evidence. Sometimes they reach the point where they would call it otherwise, and so they're giving it anyway.
Yeah, does that with those studies, are they talking about cardiac arrest from hyperkalemia specifically, or is that what I heard you say? Like even in hyperkalemia, you shouldn't give it.
I'm not saying that you shouldn't give it, but there's no evidence that demonstrates that we're leading patients to a positive outcome with calcium in with renal patients. I'll have to dig up the study. I can post it in my bio when I found it. But
I mean, in general, if it's if it's a known hyperkalemia issue, especially if you have it right there, or if you have evidence of on the ECG or whatever, like I don't have problems giving it then, and I go doing that process. But if somebody's in cardiac arrest and they just give it blindly, and if it's blood, you get a bunch of blood, okay, calcium makes that makes sense to give there, but I
Yeah.
would just randomly. I mean, if you're doing like you said, it's a kitchen sink. If you're just trying stuff to try it, I mean, I guess they're going to die. But like, there's no, yeah, nothing is if you're just shooting in the dark, I mean, like, why don't you go back through one more time and see if there's anything else that's rational, and then if not, then you know, call it.
They're saying the outcome was favorable, that he actually gave calcium and bicarb, which is, that's almost a prehistoric approach at this point, is, routine administration of calcium and bicarb later in the arrest. But let me just say that correlation does not equal causation, and that
Right.
if you started doing that for everyone, you would actually have less people alive, despite the fact that maybe it contributed to a positive outcome on this call.
Yeah. Now Steve even says like hyperkalemia arrest is pretty dismal. It is. Now the kid that I killed that one time that I'm about to do this whole thing on, Steve, I want you to type in the because what we did was from the time that it happened, we worked him for 45 minutes. And when 45 minutes, we finally got spontaneous return to circulation. But every 5 minutes, we pulled blood and we ran it, and they came back and they gave him another tube of blood. What potassium level do you think this 18-month-old kid that I killed one time got to? That's a question for Steve and anybody else.
I know the answer because I was on your live with you, so
Oh,
I'll
there
just
you
hold
go.
my
Okay,
tongue.
yeah, it's nuts. It's bad.
Amal Matu says to give it an RRWT. I'm not immediately aware of what RRWT means as it relates to cardiac arrest.
RWT. Yeah, I'm out. I'm out with that one too. I feel like I should know it.
Uh, I don't feel bad for not knowing it because clearly that's not something that we just, use in our daily comings and goings. So if this person could clarify what RRWT means, I would really appreciate it.
I want it to be like WSTD do, right? Like what would Shade Tree do?
Right, right. I just learned that some hospitals don't require their physicians to update their ACLS. Well, that's true because ACLS is essentially considered resuscitation for dummies, but what that results in is haphazard run arrests in the ED, which is another reason why I hate transporting arrests, because every arrest from doctor to doctor is run differently and there's no consistency, and it's just terrible. It's a terrible way to do it.
Yeah.
Oh, really, really wide tachycardia. Is it what that
Oh,
means? Well,
okay.
fair enough, because that usually means significant hyperkalemia.
Yeah, that's one of those like DRT kind of things. Now you didn't budge. You know what DRT? You know what DRT is, right, Jimmy?
Dead right there.
You got it. Okay, my
Yeah.
bad. You weren't impressed. That's okay. Let's see. Well, oh, Medic 49 sends out a good one.
He's pretty close.
He's close, bro. Medic 49, I'm gonna give it to you. 12.5. I think it was 12.5. And I'm telling you, the widest sine wave I've ever seen on an ECG on somebody that every once in a while had a pulse. And I remember the moment that all of a sudden, and we had given multiple calciums, multiple bicarbs, and this is 18-month-old, so it was all weight based. We had insulin hanging, D50. We had albuterol in line, and we were about to stick a K-exolate plug up. No, we did. Anyway, about 45 minutes in, this kid turns over, and all of a sudden has a great heart rate, great pulse, starts to move around, and I was like, okay, maybe this isn't my last call. Yeah, 12.5. Holy shit is right.
Maybe a stupid question, but can you use a vent when using an eye gel?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, they keep
absolutely.
lower pressures.
Yeah. In fact, in operating rooms, when they're having surgeries where, a patient may only be under for like an hour or less, they often place a supraglottic airway. Usually in the hospital, their preference is an LMA, but
Yep.
they hook those supraglottic airways up to ventilators.
Yeah, the eye gel's great inherently for us, just because like that fluid in the airway, makes it kind of get larger and larger and fill the space. But in with an LMA in surgery, I mean, they can just control the pressure in the bulb, and so they just go up or down. Like if they put them on their breathing machine, and they still call it the breathing machine. They worked with my buddy recently, and he calls it a breathing machine. He's an anesthesiologist at the U in Mississippi. Anyway, he um, they can just control the pressure. If they put them on a pressure of 18/5 a peep, and like they're getting a leak, then they just increase the size of that balloon. Boom, 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 boom. And they'll bump it. Like, oh, that's good. So now we're at a level where the minimum or the escape pressure is not larger than the inflating pressure, and that's their terms. But yeah, you totally can. And you just if my pitch earlier that got Jimmy and I off was anytime you have to reduce your volume to achieve like a pressure that will allow for air to go in and out, all you do is increase your rate a little bit. And in
Mm-hmm.
the end, I don't care about rate by itself or volume by itself. I care about the minute volume total. And so I think that after we had this conversation, Jimmy, I'm going to go back and think of like, okay, well, if 8 times a minute times a regular minute like a regular breath size for a patient, like if you have to volume but you double the rate, that would still get like the minute volume that we're looking for. And I think that, I mean, that's what when we get down to like uh, ICU where they're doing like really fast rates and really tiny volumes. Like nobody cares like what the ultimate rate or the volume is. It's the minute volume together that matters, and as long as we're not hitting pressures. So anyway, I'm thinking outside the box, um, and I might be wrong. So the whole thing here is I've kind of taken a couple notes, and I'm gonna holler at somebody tomorrow that runs these vents.
Someone's asking an opinion on basics dropping eye gels. They should absolutely be dropping eye gels. And where I work locally, a basic can drop an eye gel, um, which is at least in the cardiac arrest, which is the way that it should be.
Yeah, I think so. And, I think there's a lot of what I was able to do as an EMT basic, one of my jobs when I first started was to run the call and attend. And so you get back there with your medic and you figure out, all right, is this a basic or an advanced call? Okay, the basic. And so the medic's constantly talking to you. And you get to the point where you're taking care of a patient. And the sick ones that necessitated advanced care, then he was back there and I was helping him. And then I drove. But being able to do that every once in a while, and like he was there, you run the call up until you have to have me, and you tell me what you want me to do. That was unbelievably beneficial. Getting to learn, okay, I need to make this call, this call, this call. All right, hey, and then like he'd be like, tell me what to do. And so like, all right, I need you to start an IV. Pretty sure we need to do these meds and do this medicine. It's like, all right, well, I don't know what those meds are, but I need you to. I think I X, Y, and Z. It was really good to be able to use basic level life support and direct care, and that helps you train a lot.
Yeah. Someone is mentioning that there was some sort of pretty serious injury at the Buccaneers game tonight. Somebody may have been hit and they're not moving their lower extremities. So,
Somebody get hurt at the Bucks game? Oh yeah, my father-in-law's or my wife and my father-in-law were watching the game a minute ago, so I didn't see it. I was talking to all you guys.
yeah. Um, we were mentioning, you were mentioning the DeMar Hamlin arrest. Something I've been trying to bring up pretty consistently is that, something that hasn't been talked about a lot other than just kind of like the more pop media stuff is the Lisa Marie Presley arrest.
Oh yeah.
Because that is the most likely outcome of most of the arrests that we're going to run, is that, there's no survival. But that's still a testament to the benefit of working a patient on scene. That crew worked Lisa Marie Presley on scene. They followed ALS protocols, and they actually got Rosk back, and then they transported. They did not transport until they got Rosk, and they called it in the hospital. So even though that there wasn't, a survival there, it's still a great story for, EMS crews to see what's going on there publicly.
Yeah, yeah, that's pretty impressive.
Here's a good question for you. What is your preferred way to administer Narcan?
Well, I don't like to administer Narcan. Let me say that. So here's my 10,000 foot view, and then I'll get down a little bit more to your question. Um, Narcan kills people for one of two reasons. The blood pressure drops. More importantly, they quit breathing. So I can breathe for them. So if I show up, and again, I'm not like my typical job is I'm getting there an hour or so after the original paramedics are getting there. So this is from that vein, and I'll drop down and give you that better answer after that. If I show up and they're like knocked out, and we know when we have the lab that says that, or otherwise they're really really suggestive of this, I just intubate them and I support their blood pressure and let it wear off. At that point, I don't need them waking up dramatically or less dramatically in the aircraft and reaching for the pilot's stuff or the doors or whatever. But if I show up to a scene and I don't have readily available, at least quickly, like pressors and stuff, then I'm absolutely going to do Narcan, let them pop up and probably figure, but I have to have like evidence of it. Like it can't just be, I'm not just going to give it for like Nana that's like, sleepy at 7 in the morning. I'm not going
No,
to
of
pop
course
it.
not.
But if I have evidence, then yeah, well, if especially if they are hypoxic, if they're not breathing, if their blood pressure, if I don't feel a radial pulse or a femoral pulse, but I feel like it's weak, then yeah, I'll give them a milligram or two of Narcan, and then see what happens. And if they wake up, then I know that in a little bit I'm going to have to support that if that worked. And the other thing is you got to be careful for them fighting you or throwing up on you and that kind of thing. So I have to have an evidence of like, oh, they're sick, or maybe I can just support them for a little bit. And again, like my mentality right now is I'll let them stay drunk as much as possible as long as I can just put them on a presser and breathe for them. I'm good.
Sure.
What do you think?
Um, well, you and I are encountering it in different contexts. I
Right.
still do mostly 911, but I think that the number of adverse events that we're seeing now are because people are going straight to Narcan rather than providing a certain amount of ventilation prior. And then you also get a lot of people who are just giving them anywhere from 4 to 8 milligrams at the nose, which is a very unstable way of delivering Narcan.
Okay.
There was a study done a couple years ago that compared intranasal delivery to intramuscular delivery, and there were significantly less adverse effects with intramuscular. So my preference would be to start with outside of initially ventilating a patient would be to do zero point 0.5 intramuscular, because that's going to be a nice, slow, easy
Yeah.
delivery. And, if it wakes them up, they'll probably be fine. But at the very least, it may not wake them up, but it'll at least restore ventilations. I know a lot of people like to do a drip. I've never done a drip,
Never
but
had a drip.
to me, my preferred route is actually intramuscular instead of IV.
I think that's a great idea. I mean, like I never thought of it that way, and I know that it's possible. But like hearing your experiences coming through very clearly, if I go to work with you on the ground and we're like, no, we're going to do this, I'm like, yeah, that sounds great. That sounds like a good idea. It's nice, slow, release, controlled, relatively controlled through that muscle, slow. Yeah, I like that idea.
Now, a friend of mine was telling me that what he does is they get the BVM and they actually nebulize Narcan through the BVM until they start breathing on their own, and then they stop.
Okay, okay. So like just hook up the BVM with a nebulizer and dump Narcan in there.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't want to talk about this now, but here's a teaser for future. I also got the kill it signal from my wife. The morphine via nebulizer as a tussive in angioedema. That's going to be for a future conversation. I got to win you
Okay.
over on this. This is like a farm D is like yelling at me to do this, and I'm like, what? Why am I going to put? Anyway, that's the teaser.
Okay. I mean, that makes sense to me as the tussive.
Yeah, and it was, dude. I really want to get down into this, but I know that I don't have time, and I'm gonna get yelled at here in a minute. So, Jim, I've really enjoyed it. Thanks for letting me
Yeah.
join on. I see Flight Medic Barry shared some stuff. So everybody else, thanks for having me on, and we'll see you. We'll see you next time, Killer.
Thanks a lot, man.
Thanks, buddy. Have a good night. Are you
All right,
you're
you too.
working?
Be good. Am
Are
I
you
working?
working? Yeah.
Yeah, but there's no possibility of me getting a call.
So it's gonna be a quiet night. Good night. Have a good one, buddy.
You too. I'm going to be on here for about another 10 minutes, so I'm sorry that a lot of questions flew by that I wasn't able to get to. I was trying to hit the brakes here every once in a while so I could get to those questions, but I got about 10 more minutes where I can answer questions. Yeah, Logan, nebulized Narcan. There's a lot of nebulized things that are kind of like coming to the surface, including nebulized ketamine and nebulized fentanyl. What is an artifact on an EKG? Well, if I have wires attached to a patient and I'm monitoring their cardiac activity, and then all of a sudden that patient starts moving their arms around, or their arms are on the rails, and the ambulance is bumping up and down, that conducts through those wires, and it just makes it impossible to actually see their cardiac rhythm through that. It just creates a bunch of disorganized squiggly lines. Nebulized tranexamic acid. Yeah, that's a big thing right now too for epistaxis, for nosebleeds. Strangely enough, the data on TXA for nosebleeds is very inconsistent. But I like the idea of nebulized pain medication because I like the idea of them just being able to stop it when they've had enough. As long as you're using those type of nebulizers where it's only giving you the medication when you inhale and none of it is aerosolized outside of the nebulizer. Can't have people going down the K-hole, while they're treating their patients. I tried your technique of placing the leads on the opposite sides of the navel, and it worked great. Yeah, for those who don't know, obviously you get the perfect Einthoven's triangle when you put the electrodes on the limbs. But if it's not possible to put them on the legs, or you're just getting too much artifact, the perfect way to place them is to put them on either side of the navel, either side and just below the navel right here. Rather than putting them out here, you put them in here. And that recreates the Einthoven's triangle perfectly. Europe uses the green whistle. Yes, I just heard that term for the first time the other day. I got a guy who loyally, he's from Ireland. He loyally tunes in every morning if I go live, and he told me about that. I had a question in my live for TXA and hemorrhaging and whether or not it has fetal toxicity. I don't know. I don't know that. Do you know that? Did you look it up after they went in your live? I do know that in order to save the baby, you have to save the mother, but fetal toxicity is a little bit different than just, having an effect on the fetus. Okay, cool. So Steve Cole says no evidence of... Steve, are we friends on Facebook? Like, do we know each other outside of here? No evidence of fetal toxicity. Just had to review for a coworker. Well, there you go. I enjoy all of your videos. Thank you for sharing your knowledge. Maybe, do you contribute to resuscitation stuff and critical care stuff on Facebook? 'Cause I'm certain there's no way that two people like us who are speaking the same language when it comes to resuscitation, critical care, have common friends like Tom Bouthillet. There's simply no way we're not running in the same circles in other social media environments. Saw situs invertus for the first time today. Wondered why my EKG was strange. Never thought I'd see it. Yeah, so I'm certain that we have had interactions in the past. Good ones, I'm certain. theoretical risk of maternal emboli, theoretical only. So here's a little bit of trivia for speaking of maternal emboli, is that you probably should not be performing oral sex on your pregnant wife or girlfriend because it places them at risk for air emboli. Look it up, it's a thing. It's actually, for like in their first OBG appointments, like their 9-week appointment, is usually discussed by the OBGYN with the mother. Dodge that bullet 17 years ago, right? Can you explain that a bit more? Some people's technique is to blow a little bit, and apparently that creates an air emboli. I don't know the exact pathophysiology, but it is a very, it's not a huge risk, but it is a risk. KW Paris says he's seen it. Trent Bean says he's one of the reserves, Steve, and he's a big fan of my content, and it's funny seeing you here. I get a lot of the critical care guys here and people who are active in critical care. And a lot of the times, too, it's just simply because I'm running in the same circles as them, and so we're just supporting each other. Like Mike Verkest tunes in a lot, and he's is really like into critical care and national research and stuff like that. But he's always here when I'm live. He's not learning anything from me. He's just supporting me, and we're just talking medicine. How are you doing post-COVID? Fine. I feel great. I just have a little bit of a post-nasal drip, that's all. What should I read or study to be a better or great EMTB after running for a while? You should take an advanced class or a paramedic class if you've been in it for a while. Don't keep investing in becoming a better EMT unless that's all you want to be. Keep moving up the ladder. Do that upward mobility. You're on the education side. Got it. Because education, there's diminishing returns for education if you're an EMT basic. You have to know a certain amount of pathophysiology. You have to know a certain amount of, pharmacology and a certain amount of cardiology in order to keep increasing your knowledge as an EMT basic. And where you're going to get that is the next level. So either become an advanced or a paramedic or go on to nursing school or, some other corollary to healthcare, but don't just reinforce EMT basic over and over and over. Ideas for additional certifications I can get as a paramedic of 6 months. Jump into a critical care class right now. Everyone should do that as soon as they get out of paramedic school. That is going to be the best thing that you can do for your care, is take a critical care class. You can take advanced stroke life support and advanced burn life support classes. You can take advanced wilderness life support classes. That's a certification that's getting ready to be going live with David Pfeiffer and Red Star. Is it Red Star Rescue that he works for? I can't remember, but that's one that I want to do, is the advanced wilderness life support. Yeah, advanced burn life support is a great class. What I like about advanced burn life support is how they try to reconcile the different fluid resuscitation strategies into one equation. Cadaver labs are great too, absolutely. Yes, but his full-time gig is EKU faculty. Yeah, but he's stepping back from the leadership position there. But I don't think the certification that he's working on with Seth Hawkins is through KSU, is it? Aside from maybe them providing the credentialing. Canine medic is awesome too. Yeah, I mean, that is, that's something that you can do. And IAMed actually sells a canine class, which I think that it's a little bit too rich for my blood. I almost bought it, and then I saw that it cost like $350, and then I was like, ugh, that's okay. Great Cadaver Lab in Bull Verde, Texas. I'll take your word for it. TCP Tactical Combat Causality Care for IBSC. Yeah, there you go. Tactical Medic, if that floats your boat. You start talking about tactical stuff and I start getting sleepy. I like medicine. I get partners that are really excited to talk about operational and tactical things, and I just couldn't care less. I had to be forced to take ICS. And even David Pfeiffer told me that I had to fix myself in that I just couldn't make myself care about ICS, but I just can't make myself care about ICS. So I get the clock out in like 5 minutes, so I'm probably going to end this live. For somebody who was asking about additional content, ECG Weekly and really all the content by Dr. Matu. Yeah, I get his case of the week every week, and that stuff is phenomenal. TCCC is not for me at all. Whiskey time? No, I got to work tomorrow, and I got an hour ride home. So I got to get going, guys. This was a great live. I appreciate everyone for sticking around, and I appreciate everyone following me, and really appreciate the support. And everyone be safe. Good to see you guys. Have a good night.